So now we need to attach the strap to the satchel. So for that, you want to hold this end where you had sewn on the adjusting glider so that the seam allowance is on the top. So what you stitched on needs to be on the top, okay? And then you take the other end of the strap and dive in from the side of the satchel downwards through the D-ring. You come up, and then you need to go through that side of the adjusting buckle that is nearer to the seam allowance of the stitching. You go through there, and then you go through the other side of it, like that. And if you now pull that up, hang on, pull that up, it fell back out, I go back in. So if you now pull that up, you see that the seam allowance of the stitching is now on the inside. And that's really relevant because if it was on the outside, if it was on the outside on this side, then it would be rubbing against your jacket, your side, and that would make it more fragile. So it's much better if it's tidied up on the inside. So that's your left side of the satchel now. Do you see that? Here you go. I show you that. And now we are coming over to the other side. Make sure you do not twist. You do not twist it now. So see here, the webbing comes like this. And then now you need to come in from the outside of the bag, like from the right side of the bag towards the flap of the bag. Come in like that. Do you see that? And then you fold that over, and for one last time we need to stitch so that it looks like that. Okay, and once we have stitched that down, you have your webbing without any twisting. Okay, make sure that's without twisting before you put it in a machine for stitching. And what I will do is I will come down because I really want to show you how I stitch the strap. I think like this you should see it. So I have about 15 millimeter seam allowance in here, and then I go on to the strap. See, I don't start at the beginning. I go onto the strap. I really need to hold on to my threads now because if it's an awkward stitching, they do like to make bird nests underneath. I put my needle down about 2 millimeters away from the edge, and I start stitching 1, 2, 3, and then in my back here I go all the way off the strap. See, now I'm off, and now I come back on, and then I put my threads away like so. So now we have a connection established. Now the machine will let us do anything we want, really. So we come off now on this side, and with the back here we go back on, and now we stitch slowly to come back off and come back on. So obviously you would really stitch that with the black, with the color of the webbing. I only stitch that with that gold that gives away all my wonky stitching so that you can see it, what I'm doing. Okay, so, and now we have stitched it on, and we didn't need what they call a jeans magic. We didn't need anything behind the foot. Do you know, that's truly all things that help you, but there's tricks that you don't even need that. And my trick that always worked for me was that I'm starting in the middle of the webbing, and then I go back and forth, and then I never had a problem to jump back onto it. So, and now the connection here on the side is finished. Do you see it? Yeah. And you have done it. Your satchel is complete. Just look how wonderful it is. You have done really, really well, you all. You had an immense amount of patience, because look how innocent this satchel looks. and how much work is in it. So now, oh, we have, I have nearly forgotten, we obviously need to sew on now the magnetic button. Let me find it, I get back to you. So, all here. It had attached to the metal box with the clips. So, here you go, that's your 2 bits. So usually the big bit closes onto the small bit. Okay, so now we also, when we sew this on now by hand, we want to use a really thick thread, because do you see these loops around this metallic button? They are very, very abrasive, these eyes there. And if you use normal sewing thread, after 2 or 3 loops, it will break on you. So what I'm using is, I'm using extra strong Gütermann upholstery thread in black, because it fits to my satchel, but you obviously choose the color you need. And I take it double. I use a needle which is not the smallest size, and it has got a bigger eye. So this is a chenille 22 sharp. And I put through the 2 open ends of the thread, meaning on the other side of my thread, I have a loop. Right? Here's my loop. Don't know if you can see that. So now I'll find a good position where I want. So you need to consider, when the satchel stands and when there's stuff in it, the flap will automatically come a bit higher up, because the bag is thicker, like has a bigger tummy, the bag, you see. So therefore, don't, if you make it too flat when you put the button on for the closure, then as soon as you have a little bit of something in the bag, the other side of the closure in the flap will not reach the side of the closure on the back anymore. So bear that in mind. So I will attach this bit of the closure here in that pocket I've put on top, about here. I don't think it should be further down. So I will just attach it to it. So I have stitched through the fabric, came out, and then I went through the loop at the end of my thread, and then I'm shut. And this is how I avoid having to knot the fabric at the beginning. The upholstery thread is a lot more sturdy, and that's why it can deal with the abrasiveness of the eyes where I sew it onto, and it won't break on me. So I made the thread a bit longer to begin with, because we have 4 eyes to do, and in each eye you need to put at least 4 stitches. Therefore, it's always surprising to see how much thread that needs and how quickly your thread would be finished. So let's go in here. I turn that a bit. See, here I'm half done. Let's turn it a bit. Let's keep it halfway straight. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the last one. See here, you see? And then the last one. So I go into the jeans, I come out the other side, see, like so. And then I can adjust it a bit, and then we do the last bit, like so. Here you are. So I have a bit of thread over, so I can go a couple more times, because you don't want that to unravel. Here you go. And then the last one, I kind of just stitch here next to the button. I come out. I have this loop here, which I then hold, and I pull out the thread out the needle. So I have a loop and a double thread with an open end, and I just take these 2 with each other and make a double knot to hold it. and then I cut them all to the same length, squish it in between my fingers to get all these 4 threads, the loop and the open ends, into my needle, and then I bury it under the button somewhere. Here you go. And then I pull, and I get it out and I cut it. So that's the first side finished, and now is the big moment where I have to find the side where I want to put this side, the thicker side of. So if I put that as far down as I can, then I give my satchel, well, it won't go that big. So I think I go about there. I think I go about here. So we are good people and we measure. We measure the equal distance to either side of the flap. So that's 14.5 to the middle. And this is 14 and nearly 15. So I just need to go a little bit up, need to go to here. So I think this is where I'm gonna put it. So because I need to thread a new needle, I just put myself a pin either side of it to find it back, that position. And I get my needle ready. Here you go. Again, I put both open ends together, put the open ends through the needle, and then I go through the first eye of this side of the magnetic button, go through the loop, and then I'm shut. So I already have these two connected, and then I go onto my pinned position and I sew this so that I don't go through to the front. How do I know that? I have my finger on the outside, and obviously as long as I don't get pricked by the needle, it's not coming through. I'm trying to get the full, sew it onto the full lining, and maybe ideally even a little bit of the interfacing of the jeans of the front, so that I just don't go completely through to the front. That would be a shame if you have a little stitch visible on the front. We wouldn't want that. Here you go. So see, you see already how hard it is to get through these eyes. So if you had normal thread, that would be long broken. So the upholstery thread is really what you want. Or if you have been given an old sewing basket from somebody who doesn't sew anymore, there will be buttonhole thread in there, good old buttonhole thread, which was thicker as well. That would be a good solution as well, to use that if it comes in a color that's suitable for you. That was nice sturdy thread. Or very old linen thread that's uncomparable to nowadays linen thread. They're not the same anymore, they break now, but the old linen threads didn't break. So one more here, and then one more eye to do. See, I just go down here and then I go into the lining behind and come back out at the next eye and then start sewing into that. So I don't want to see the connecting stitches from eye to eye. That's not pretty if you see that. Well, at least I don't think it's pretty. So, and then a bit more, oofed, and one more. Here you are, and then I do what I did before. I just stitch in a bit of fabric. I go through, I put my finger in the loop. See, I have a loop on my finger and the end with the two loose threads on the left. I make a double knot. Not behaving. A minute. Let's start again. Here, make a double knot. Here we are, and another knot there, and again I cut them down to the same length and put them back in the needle here and send them underneath. If you don't get everything into the needle, that doesn't matter, just do it in 2 runs. See, that's the first run, and there's another loop here. That's not tragic, we just send it separately and put it underneath. Here you are, put the needle away, tug a bit that it really all disappears. Look that you really have nothing on the front, and then you cut it. And then I would say we are really finished now. Here you go. Here your closure is on, your satchel is finished, and you have done a really, really grand job. Thanks everyone.